Green Lantern Dark, issue 5, Tate Brombal writing with WERTHER DELL'EDERA on the art. So, yeah, this is, issue 5 of this. I remember thinking this was going to be like a 3-issue book. So every time we get a new one, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, it's a longer book than that. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is doing some interesting stuff. I mean, the first few pages do kind of almost the New God style Ram v Celestial. This explains something really big and cosmic. Because the last issue kind of ended with that tease that what's her face? Diamona? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Demona. That she was like, looking at this big worm thing, and we didn't really know what the context of it was. So this explains that darkness tried to overtake the universe after everything was created. So the creator made this big worm that consumes any sort of planets or anything that's been infected too much with the darkness. It'll consume them to keep the universe like nice and clean. And there's some really gorgeous art here. There's a big 2-page spread of and it looks like a big worm. Like they call it a wormhole, but it is literally a big cosmic worm with big teeth.
Yeah. It is a cosmic horror worm.
Yeah, it's very pretty art, and it basically just sets up this idea that we get fleshed out a little bit as Demona talks when she's frustrated. Is that Green Lantern's spreading light throughout New England, and she's pissed off because she's intentionally made the world dark because she wants the worm to come and consume the planet because she thinks she's owed more, she's owed bigger. She wants to go to space and do whatever she wants. Like the world's not enough for her.
We get a lot of her backstory here. What I wasn't ready for. I wasn't ready to get into Arthurian legend. But here we are.
Were you prepared for who her father was? Because I don't think we knew this, did we?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
So that was a shock, and then that of course led me to reading more about the Tangent universe, which I didn't have time for. So I have it loaded to read like these little different backstories because I remember we had talked about the whole Castle Bat and why he was the Batman of the Tangent universe. But I kind of forgot about it because that was 2 issues ago, I think, right?
Something like that.
Or was that last issue? Yeah. And I kind of spaced on it. Like it was in the back of my mind. So then when we get that reveal, I was like, wait a minute. I need to go read his origin again.
Yeah. So
and then,
Bat-Wraith's the dad and comes out to talk to her and tries to like talk her down basically.
Yep.
But she's a spoiled brat who wants the universe, basically.
Her mother is Morgan Le Fay from Arthurian legend, the one that is responsible for Arthur's downfall, and then Sir William, who is her dad. The reason that he's bound to Castle Bat is because he betrayed Arthur, right? And now he has to stay there, and he is the Dark Knight. So seeing those two interact,
you're leaving something out there. Merlin cursed them to be trapped there,
and as penance for turning on Arthur, right? Yeah. And so her having her mom here too as a mummy, I was like, okay, that's different. Like it took it into a creepy, but in a good way, because now we went from knowing nothing about Demona as a character to now we're just like, oh my god, she's a creepy girl. Yeah. And a lot more invested.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of backstory in this just across the board because it does kind of this montage of like basically just Green Lantern and her little team, which is Beast Boy, Lynette, and her brother, going from town to town. The towns that either because they're fighting like a witch of some kind, and I thought, oh, this is going to be the main villain of the issue, but no, she's done with like a page later, and then it's like, oh, we move on, and there's some running things throughout, like Lynette looking a little bit sick and so on, but for the most part, it's like, okay, a little bit of a montage of them like fighting new things in a new town and bringing light to people and give like her green light has been like given to them so that now their lights, their lanterns and their candles all have this green flame. She's sharing the light around. That's something that's going throughout. And then every few pages we get basically at the campsite as they're traveling, one by one they're revealing some backstory. So the first up is the kids, and it's like Lynette talking about this dream she has where her dad's head is missing. And it's like a super weird, like interpreted thing and whatnot. And then then we get some backstory from the Bat-Wraith at one point, although he conveniently leaves out all the stuff about his daughter being the bad guy and just kind of like does some of the stuff with getting cursed and being stuck in the castle. Talks about how the castle lifted up and like flew from England to New England and rested there. So you've got a little bit of that. You get Beast Boy talking about touching the meteor and how he basically, when he went back to not being in beast form, it's kind of like a Hulk thing or a werewolf thing where he basically saw all the people he'd killed whilst he was in beast form and had to try and deal with that, and he ran away. So it does a little bit of backstory for each of them, and maybe the most interesting is Green Lantern herself, because we get a little bit of, no, she actually did find a previous Lantern who was like on fire in the woods, and she said, "I'm sorry," before she passed on the energy to her. But there's kind of a happy page though, where she says, like, I've been carrying this flame, kind of ashamed of it, but also kind of wanting to let it unleash. But I didn't realize all this time that I could share it. And it's been my favorite page of the issue, where like all the panels behind her, and for the first time it looks like she's smiling, and you see in the background just all these people holding candles with green flames. So it's just this idea that things are actually getting quite positive, which is why, of course, we have to end with a really dark cliffhanger, because like everyone's too happy. Like they're spreading the hope. The light is coming back to the island of New England that's separated from everywhere else. But at the end, Lunette collapses, she's sick, and we're reminded that Demona had been in contact previously with the brother, because this was a thing we saw a while ago.
Yep.
And she's like, hey, you've been helping her too much. This Green Lantern's been bringing up too much light to everywhere. So the boy says, hey, I'll do anything if you save my sister. I'll do anything. Like, like, you're right. She can't be trusted. Like, what do you want? So she's like, good boy. I'll be forgiven if you do one thing. She hands him like a thing, the seed, like plant it and drop a tear, one of your tears, one of your child tears on it. And she just says, Demona's been bored greatly with these games. So the ending is kind of similar to the cliffhanger last time, where it's like, hey, I've got something coming. Although this time it looks like a big flame creature that's coming from her hands. Yeah, I thought I was gonna say more than that.
No, just a big flame monster that she's, whatever she's got up the plan. I feel like she's a flame creature though, to put out other flames seems like, maybe she's trying to start a different fire to put out the green flame.
I mean, she said she's going to snuff out all the light herself, because she wants to plunge the world into permanent darkness, and obviously she's pissed at the Green Lanterns putting a stop to this. So I do like the brother character being put in this really tough spot where he's going to have to like help the villain to try and save his sister. So all of this sickness that was slowly building up throughout there, because they kept saying she looked a little bit rough, maybe she needs some water, and she kept saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. So it's building to something, but this idea that the villain's behind it, and it's all a ploy to manipulate the brother, is actually quite nefarious, and I think has really sold this idea of like just how bad she is. As if like, putting the entire world into darkness wasn't already enough to say she's a villain. But that wrinkle of her dad being the Bat Wraith and him keeping that from the rest of them is an interesting little pivot as well. Hey, much better than all that Aquaman King Arthur stuff that I dropped like a bad habit.
Yeah. Well, because you understand about the whole, he betrayed them. And so now this is his curse for doing that. It's more than just building a weapon with the Lady of the Lake. So, but yeah, no, good stuff. That whole scene where she said that she could share the light, and it's this thing that she doesn't have to have this burden of being the Green Lantern alone, right? Yeah. They can be the Green Lantern. And I really like that that's where we're operating from with her now.
Yeah, because there's a scene where the Bat Wraith's like, hey, I've known one of your kind before, I can give you teachings. And basically it warns her that, if you break at any point and your concentration and willpower drops, because your willpower is what's fueling all this light that you spread around, it could all go away instantly. And he's kind of pessimistic, but she's kind of saying, no, I mean, I think, like, this is... Like, she's not worried about it. And maybe, don't get me wrong, I suspect that we'll have a payoff to that, where maybe it all does go out when she gets a moment of weakness or something. But I feel like this idea of her being like strengthened because she is sharing the light with others, and that being something that gives her more willpower, is something we're exploring here. Of like, she's becoming stronger because she's connecting to people in a way, and she's helping people. And I think there's some story things to explore there. But yeah, I mean, the art's good, of course, as it has been throughout. Particularly when it's dealing with the stuff in the dark, where there's just those bursts of green light, is some of my favorite. So that's really neat.
I really like the Beast Boy stuff just because he's bathed in that Eclipso seed color, right? That purple, and that darkness. So that when we get his story and everything's with that purple hue, but then it comes back to the forest and it's all lit up with the green light and stuff. It adds a bit of dimension to his story. You know, that he has all this darkness, but he wants to do good, right? He's choosing to go with them. I like all of that. Yeah.
Honestly, each of the flashbacks or the stories that they tell at the campfire all have their own color scheme, because Bat Wraith is all red, for example, and obviously the green one's all green, as you'd expect. But no, I mean, it's a solid book. It's not my favorite of the issues, I think, because it is this montage of going through lots of things quickly. It doesn't have quite as much impact as like maybe the first couple issues where it was building up all sort of in a row to like one thing happening. But this does feel like a sort of essential chapter in the middle where it's showing that the legend of her spreading and that we're getting to this point where we're getting to know all the characters a little bit more. So, no, really solid issue. It's still been quite a surprise. And as someone who knows nothing about the universe this is kind of based on, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know anything about the Tangent universe. No. Matt's just a sicko who likes to look things up when he can.
Yep.
So
I don't know how deep that goes with the lore, right? Because I feel like this is getting more towards the Green Lantern we know of, with the whole willpower, with Tate BROMBAL adding that there and stuff, and then with Beast Boy, more traditional kind of Beast Boy vibe with the tragic backstory and whatever. But yeah, kind of want to see what other, how different the Tangent universe is. Although with all of the set in New England, with the way that that's set, it almost feels like it's in its own subset of the Tangent universe, which I think is pretty cool. Because it does. It feels like this dark fairy tale just done with, superhero concepts that we got. So, if it does just play out solitary like this, that's fine.
All right, Matt, what are you rating Green Lantern Dark?
I'm going to give this let's bump it up to the 8. I'll give it a straight 8.
Cool. Yeah, I think I agree with the 8. I think this is exactly perfect for it. So, it sounds like I'm being lazy, but I just think it is the right score.